Turning now to the Obama administration's approach to immigration and a humanitarian crisis, as it calls it, shrouded in secrecy and isolation. The unaccompanied illegal immigrant children in facilities now scattered all across the country, as you see on this map. The White House has denied access even to our elected representatives. That's what happened to our first guest, recently barred from entering Health and Human Services facilities at Fort Sill, now housing up to 1,200 illegal immigrant children. Joining us is Congressman Jim Bridenstine, a member of the Armed Services Committee, also a former combat pilot, lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy Reserve. Congressman, good to have you with us. I think most people are shocked to learn that you were denied access to any part of a military base, but particularly to a facility that is a detention center, a shelter for illegal immigrant children who are coming across our border at the rate of by the tens of thousands.
That's correct, Lou. On July 1st, I attempted to gain access to this facility. I'm a member of the Armed Services Committee. I was denied access. I was told to come back on July 21st. Interestingly, since then, we've been making an issue of this. We finally got HHS to invite us for a tour on the 12th, which is this Saturday.
Right.
Interestingly, Lou, they're having a media tour on the 10th, 2 days before I get there. The email that they sent to the media said, we're going to have a 40-minute tour of the facility, but you can't ask questions, you can't talk to the staff, you can't talk to the medical staff, you can't talk to the children, you can't bring recording devices, and you can't take pictures. If you want pictures, they said, we'll send them to you. This is unacceptable. We have human suffering here. These stories need to be told. And the human suffering, Lou, is a direct result of an open border on the south side of the United States and a president who has announced to the world that his goal is to give people citizenship who make it here illegally.
And with that rhetoric, he's invited by the tens of thousands these unaccompanied children. Often they are accompanied by family members, and indeed families. But
that's correct.
The idea that they would deny you access, and they being, as I understand it, a private security force working for the Department of Health and Human Services and Homeland Security. This is, have you ever encountered anything like this?
No, I haven't. And of course, this is unacceptable. This is not in keeping with the First Amendment of our Constitution as it relates to the media having access. It's certainly not in keeping with me as a member of the House Armed Services Committee doing oversight. Lou, before I got to Congress, I did counter-illicit trafficking operations with the United States Navy. I used to fly missions out of El Salvador, which a lot of these children are coming from El Salvador. I can tell you that the crime and poverty in El Salvador is bad today for sure. But it was bad 2 years ago, it was bad 3 years ago, and it was bad 4 years ago. The only difference between then and now is that the president continues his open border policy, and at the same time he's advertised that he wants to give people citizenship who make it here illegally.
And what will you be able to do in response? First, to what is an outright insult to the office that you hold and your constituents who put you in that office?
Well, that's a good question. Of course, I've talked to the appropriate committee chairman to make sure that we're going to have hearings on this issue. Certainly, I'm going to keep going back. I have made my intention clear that, yes, I'm going to take them up on their offer for a tour on the 12th, but I'm also going to come back from time to time unannounced. In the state of Oklahoma, if you want to have foster children, then the Department of Human Services is going to come to your house from time to time unannounced. It's perfectly appropriate that members of Congress have access to these facilities.
And the president now is going to meet with Governor Perry. We are assured, after Governor Perry insisted that if they're to meet, it will be a substantive meeting. The president relented and through Valerie Jarrett accepted the governor's terms, and they will meet, we are told. Do you expect anything positive, productive to come out of that?
I hope it's fruitful. What I would encourage Governor Perry to convey to the president is that we only have operational control over 44% of our southern border. The Secure Fence Act of 2006 requires the president to have 100% operational control over the southern border. The president needs to enforce the law, and certainly governors in states like Texas are having to, spend a lot of their taxpayer dollars to do what the president refuses to do. And of course, now states like mine, Oklahoma, we're having the overflow.
The overflow and the burden. Talking with Mayor Alan Long of Marietta, California, Congressman, he said to me and to the audience last night, he said, this is a federal problem and there's not much we can do about it. But the reality is it is Marietta's problem. It's Oklahoma's problem, and states and communities all across the country. It isn't the president's problem nor the federal government's, because they have simply the responsibility and the duty to enforce the law, which they are not doing. Would you say that's a fair construction?
Yes, and it does become a local problem, and here's why. Because 85% of the children that are showing up at these facilities, they have a phone number in their pocket. They call that phone number, somebody comes and picks them up. That person becomes their custodian, and they get a court date. Number one, we don't know who those custodians are. That's one of my jobs as a member of the Armed Services Committee and a member of Congress, is to have oversight. Who are these custodians? And here's what's also interesting, Lou. Of those children that are released, 85% are released to these custodians. 90% of those kids never come back for their court date, which means these unaccompanied alien children facilities are being, in essence, they are illegal alien in-processing facilities, and these folks end up coming into our communities. Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from Texas, has made issue of the fact that the local communities down in Texas are not situated to deal with this kind of influx. We're talking about schools having issues and other challenges that this is going to have a big impact on local communities.
The simple reality is this nation cannot afford to bring in unlimited numbers of impoverished and uneducated people. We have a Social Security system that is going broke, a welfare and entitlement system that is at the breaking point already, and this president is pressing further burden on the social safety net of this country. It is an absolute mess, and this president is largely responsible for it, in my opinion. Congressman, good to have you with us. Look forward to talking with you again, and good luck with your next appointment with the authorities at Fort Sill.
Thank you, Lou.